Yep.
Massive supporters of it. I know you've done a few tracks, but can you just tell us why it's so important to the club and also to the NRL?
Yeah, it's a killer. You know, it's a. We don't have a cure. It affects a lot of people. Affects a lot of young people, and you know we need to assist the people because it does affect people quickly, and they do need nurses and support. And there's a lot of big words and doctors and specialists, and so the nurses can really provide care for that. And then we also need a cure. You know, we want people to survive this deadly disease that takes them really quickly, and we haven't got it yet. So any support for the Mark Hughes Foundation, you know, as far as charities go, it's a bloody brilliant one that the money goes directly to nurses and the research. So yeah, the support's needed.
Does it show how powerful a sport like rugby league can be outside of the culture of the rectangle with all eyes on frame, you know, it's across the weekend, where it transcends through the community and makes a genuine difference?
Yeah, I mean, sport, it accelerates emotion. That's why we enjoy watching it. That's why we get energy from it. And therefore it can use those powers for good when it comes to big important issues that affect our community. And our community of rugby league has been affected. People's lives get affected by it. So when rugby league does things like this to say, hang on, we think we can really support a cause that's in need, it does a really good job. Yep.
Walk us through how that came to be and what your conversations have been like in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty simple. You know, it ends up becoming quite a big issue for everybody, but you know, it's quite simple. We had training session that was really clear and that everyone was at. And so we breached him, and he's not playing this week because we want a higher standard, and then we'll get back to normal transmission next week. So that's the really simple explanation of it. The conversations around that are about what we expect, what we want from our players, and then we'll get back to work. And I know there's a lot of conversations around it, but that's simply what it is.
So one breach isn't going to end his future at this club. I know he's taking the option for next year, but there seems
Yeah.
to be a talk that
There's
fallen out of favour with you and so on and so forth.
No, it's pretty simple. He fell out of favour for this week because it was really important for us, and everyone was there that was needed to be, and we really wanted, you know, people care about how we perform each week, and just in that occasion, he said, "Look, I don't. That's not important to me," and so, you know, myself and the club wanted to say, no, this is what we do here every day is really important, and we value you, but we want you to value us as much, and so we took those measures. It's worse. The worst part of it is when it opens up all the conversations that start happening around it, and all you want to do is hold your club to a high standard and get performance out of your players. That's simply what it is, and we didn't feel like we got that week. It's cost this weekend, but we've got back to work this week and done really well.
Trent, how much goes into actually sitting down for a week? Because you can do a lot of stuff to guys, but missing football, the thing that really kills them, right?
Yeah.
That's the big decision as part of what's happened the last week.
Yeah, it's a hard one because you get exposed as a club. You get put, you get asked the question on that. But if you want significant change, it's a bit like being a parent. If you want to change, how do you discipline and love someone at the same time? And that's what you have to do. But when you do it in our game, it becomes very public. But when you take away the thing that people really thrive off, it often creates change in the better way. You can do it privately and sort of ask for change and all of that, but until you say, hang on, if you don't value the game, then you don't play a game, then that creates the change that we want. And so we really want to support him and get him better, but it has to come through discipline.
Does he need to show more, like off the field on a regular basis, that he wants to stay here at the Roosters?
Oh no, I don't think that's there was a short space of time. He's come back in. He's handled the this week really well. He's trained really well. His positivity's been there, and he's shown that from Monday when we walked back in. And so that was what we wanted. We wanted to handle it in the right way. He has. He's got on with the work, and we'll get back to. Well, he's already got back to training. We'll get back to playing next week.
Does he still retain a lot of support of his senior teammates? Do the guys still support him and want him to be here?
Well, this is the interesting thing about support. Like, what does support look like? And it does look like, no, these are the standards. We support you by telling you the truth. Lots of teams, lots of clubs won't tell you the truth. They won't sit you down face to face and tell you what you think. They'll say it behind your back, or whereas the senior players told him what they wanted from him. They tell you the truth. It's a hard conversation, but it's honest, and that's where trust gets built. So they handled it in the right way as well.
What about on-field, Trent? Do you want to see more from him? Like, you signed him as one of the leading hookers in the game. For Melbourne, we played a different role. Do you still need to see? He's been here 18 months.
Yep.
So.
I've really, probably the last couple of weeks, we weren't as good last game, but there's been some different periods, but I feel like he's really added value this week. I feel like the combination between him and Connor really has developed this year. I feel like that's been a real positive point of that. So this is separate to the on-field. This is not, you're not playing well enough. Like, I feel like we get in a sweet spot with Connor and Brandon playing. You can really see it, and I feel like they've played a fair bit that way this year. Then we'll be in a good spot.
Can you talk about the process with Joseph Sua'a'li'i? Obviously, he was like Mark Hughes in Origin last
Yep.
year. When he walks back through these doors to come back here straight away after Origin, what do you have to do? What's going through his head now and getting back on the straight and narrow with a bit of a break on the sideline now?
Yeah, thought he handled it well post-Origin. 4 weeks, so there's two parts to it. He gets back to training. Like he has been this year, he's training multiple positions in the opposition. So he goes straight to the opposition team, trains multiple positions, but then he also gets some physical work done in and around that. So today he won't train with the team. He'll go and do some extra physical work to get that mini pre-season. So he's ready for the for the last sort of 8 rounds of the season.
I know the club thought long and hard about whether to challenge the charge with the Judiciary. In your mind, do you think the reckless was a little bit over the top, that charge?
It's a really hard one, because I think two things. If someone said careless grade 3, I think we would have thought yes, and then when it gets to a reckless grade 2, as soon as you look at the ones that have been graded in and around there, it's been difficult to, there's different types of tackles that have fallen in those that you could say are worse or not as bad as Joseph's one. So the nuances of the tackle, but then the risk of games was quite hard. And because the judiciary process has changed, the success has been pretty low going to the judiciary this year. Whether that's a good thing, whether they're grading better, or whether it's the judiciary has aligned a lot more with match review. But the success rate's been very low.
It's one tackle that just went wrong, but he played aggressively. Is your message to him still play the same way? Or do you expect him to go as hard into battle?
No, you can't change the mindset of the player, but you've got to make sure that their technique falls in line with the rules. So, I'd be really disappointed if that happened in our games as well. So mindset doesn't need to shift, but technique that goes with it, and adjusting that's pretty key, especially when you're that height.
You spoke about the aftermath, the way he handled himself. I ruled out the teammates on the next day, and it was his decision. He said, "I want to find the cameras."
Yep.
What does that say about Joseph, who's 20?
Yeah.
To have the courage to also have the knowledge of how to right now, address it and then move on.
Yeah, it's a lot of. I think he handled that really well, because a lot of things get lost in what people's opinions might be or what we think they might be thinking, and when someone addresses it, we can accept that and then move on. So, and I think he handled it really well, the way that it didn't need to linger 4, 5, 6 days. He just needed to address it straight away because it was a tackle that went wrong. Apologise, move on. So the maturity of the guy, I think he's shown that he's been really club focused here, but he's also in the middle of developing himself into the right kind of person as well.
Michael Checker's name keeps getting linked to NRL jobs.
Yep.
The power job is one which you've been mentioning this last couple of weeks. Like, you've worked with the guy. Like, what do you see which people will look at his resume and say he hasn't coached much league before? Like,
Yep.
What do you think he could add to an organisation just as a head coach potentially?
Yeah, his ability to get players to play to their potential and beyond. I think he's shown that in many jobs that he's had around the world. We all know, there's enough people in the game to know the really technical nuances of a team, but handling people day in, day out has been a strength of Czechs in lots of different countries, in lots of different languages as well. So, and they're harder to find. They're the things that big clubs need at different times. So, he's definitely well equipped there, and he's grown up with rugby league. He's been in this area for a long, long time. He loves the game. He's coached Lebanon successfully there. It's a risk when it comes to the rugby league knowledge, but it's not when it comes to man management. That I think he's laid his resume on the line many times there.
He's surprisingly more guys who don't. We see a lot of league guys, Mike Ford, Sean Evans, David Kidwell.
Yeah.
If I will go to you, we don't really have much coming the other way. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, we're pretty conservative when it comes to the hiring and the cycling of people, but there's two things that players want out of coaches, and that's, they want tactical knowledge, and they want man management. How do you hire a group around that with Czech? But getting the man management there is, it's harder to see when you've got assistant coaches and stuff. It's not hard to see. They know what they'll be hiring with Czech when it comes to his capacity. They don't need to ask him about man management. They can look at the way that he's handled that over the course of 30 years of coaching.
And I know we're sort of in the middle of the origin period at the moment. It's such a crucial time for a lot of clubs that are sort of in the top 8, just outside the top 8. What do you want to see from your team in the next sort of month or so? We haven't sort of seen it over the first 30 rounds.
Yeah, there's a couple of things we identified that we need to do well. I think we're in as clear a spot as we've been for many years on style, and so that's we've had really tight games this year. We've often won by a lot or lost by a little, and so there's a little bit of tightening up in the defensive areas that we need to do. We're constantly there's sort of been 3 tries there constantly, and we just need to tighten that up. I want to see a focus on that. But I want to see a continual belief in our system and going after that. I feel like over the last couple of months we've refined it and we're pretty clear on how we want to play. But defensive improvements definitely one that we want to do over the next month.
What's his recovery been like? I know it's throats, has he still been able to run and keep pretty fit with himself?
Yep. Yeah. So his recovery was, he would have been close to playing that Cowboys game. That was, we thought he could have played if he didn't get a scan. Or no, what was it? The Canberra game, I think it was, after the Brisbane or the Magic round. Because he recovered quite quickly within a couple of days, but there was a little fracture there. So could have been fine, but the risk was really high on longer term damage. So we took our time. He's been able to train and do everything as per, but he's been in obviously a non-contact bib just to protect that throat, but he's right to go from tomorrow.
There's a lot of chat about him potentially getting that 14 spot for himself after he gets through the 80 this week when he's going to play. Do you think he deserves a shot?
Yeah, I think, I don't know where they're at with selection and all of that, but I know Connor brings energy, brings communication, and there's a belief in the way that he goes about his business. So, it's a good opportunity for him to put that on show tomorrow night.